Thank you for joining us this evening for our fall senior and parent evening presentation. It is wonderful to see everyone in person. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us tonight. And what a journey it's been through pandemics and online coding and online teaching, through Puerto Rico, through junior college trips, through seems like Shakespearean dramas and comedies, state championships and quiz bowl tournaments. We made it. We're here. It's senior year. Congratulations. Pat yourself on the back. Right? We did it. And what an accomplishment. This is an extraordinary senior class, and you should be very proud of all that your students have achieved and the road that they've traveled so far. Our work is not done, but the best is yet to come in many ways, because this is when tonight we're going to be talking about and sharing our advice about the road ahead for the next year, and what your students have been working on, how we're here to help you, what our office is here to accomplish, and the roles that we play, and the role that you play, as well as how your students are taking ownership of their future. If you don't know already, my name is Melissa Lustig. I'm one of the directors of college counseling. This is my 5th year, and I'm excited to welcome you for the evening. And of course, my colleague.
Hello, I'm Demmy Villalpando. I'm the other director of college counseling, and this is my 3rd month. So I've only been here for 3 months, but I've been really immersed myself in the culture and meeting a lot of the students, working a lot with the students. So it feels like I've been here for a long time.
Yes. This is our agenda for the evening. So we're going to start with just a little bit of an insight about our philosophy, not touch too much up on it, since I feel like you are all pros at this point. But just since we have a new team, right, it's a new opportunity for us to reevaluate what we do and make it even better, a better resource for you. Updates and upcoming events. Now it's a flurry of activity, as you can imagine. I'm sure your students are you're in the midst of it. And we want to give you some advice and kind of walk you through this process so you know what your students are working on, where they're at, and what's to come, okay? Naviance tools, some of the resources you have available to you. If you don't know what's available yet, this is a plethora, a wealth of information at your disposal, at your fingertips. And you all have access to Naviance, which is the portal through which our students, they record their applications, their decisions, and all the data collection that we have. Anatomy of an application, going through the different components of the application, all the different pieces and parts and the nuances that comprise the application and how those are submitted. We're not going to go in depth because of the limited time in terms of how colleges read applications, but we can refer you to some additional resources related to that, including our college counseling on-demand tutorials. Financial aid, some big upcoming or big changes to that landscape that we want you to be familiar with and know about, and then finally resources.
So I just want to say too, we're going to have at the end of the presentation a moment for Q&A, but if at any time you have a question, feel free to ask. We're happy to answer questions. So to touch a little bit on philosophy, like Melissa said, you've been here for a while, so you have an idea, a pretty good idea of the philosophy. I will say this year, we're working a lot on rethinking philosophy. How do we work? So one thing that we're really becoming really intentional about is personalizing the experience as much as we can. So we're really trying to make sure that we work with the students every step of the way. Our doors are open. We our seniors are our priority. So we really want to meet with the seniors. We want to look not only at their, college list and make sure that they're all good to go. We also want to see their essays, help them, support them, outlining, giving them comments, edits. I also want to say that, the students have 2 college counselors. We said that intentionally, Demmy Villalpando writes letters A through L. Melissa Lustig writes letters N through Z. Notice how it doesn't say they are their college counselors, because really we want to emphasize that they have 2 college counselors. And so if at any point the student wants to get the other counselor's pair of eyes or their input, we're more than happy to do that. And a lot of students are doing that already. I meet a lot of Ms. Lustig students, and she meets some of my students as well. So we really want students to know that they have 2 counselors. We're both experienced, we're both knowledgeable, we have different perspectives on different things or different approaches, so it is to their benefit that they work with both of us. So if they haven't done so already, encourage them. It's good for them to get both perspectives. So that's a little bit of our philosophy. We also, of course, want you to be a partner in all of this. So we welcome meetings with parents anytime, really. My style was a Calendly link, so you could set up a meeting anytime. And if it's available, I'm happy to do that. If not, send me an email. We can figure something out. Ask parents of seniors. You're a priority as well. So, we want to make sure that we're working and paying attention to everything and answering all the questions that you may have, as well as help and guide the process. So that's really what our philosophy is all about for 12th graders, making sure we're there anytime they need it and support every step of the way. So we really want to make sure that students are guided into having options, right? So we want to support them with the letters of their college list, making sure that we understand who they are. The more we know them, the more we can help them. So we really want to emphasize that as part of our philosophy.
All right. So updates and upcoming events. We hosted 2 phenomenal boot camps with guest presenters, one in June and another in August. Our August was our most populated and successful event with 45 rising seniors in attendance. We featured representatives from, we had Yale and USC presenting on writing the college essay and supplemental essays in June, and then we had Dartmouth presenting again on college essays in August for a different perspective as well. Those were both recorded presentations, so if you would like access to them, just let us know. We're happy to do so and share them with your students if they haven't had a chance to attend, didn't have a chance to attend or watch those. We're thinking about in the future expanding the boot camps to multiple days to allow for more time for students to work with us. It seemed like they really appreciated that hands-on time on task, which advisory provides, but now we're in production mode, as you know, right? We've crafted those college lists, we hopefully visited some campuses, and really kind of done the research, and now it's about filling out those applications and making them shine. And so that's what the boot camps are really intended for, is producing that best work. So we're really happy that those have been successful. One thing that's new this year, again, new year, new energy, new resources, new opportunities, we have roundtables. Every Wednesday from 8 to 9 a.m., we are offering basically walk-in. So we are in Instructor Bugney's classroom, and we're partnering with Instructor Bugney as well when it comes to essay writing. So she has been helping us to edit and to read and to brainstorm with students on their ideas, because she's an expert at what she does, and and she's helped the students craft their narratives and understand that it's not an English paper that they're writing, that they're submitting. This is a very different kind of self-reflection. So she lends a phenomenal perspective, and we're happy to partner with her as well as our other teachers. Yes?
Sorry, when did you say that?
So it's every Wednesday from 8 to 9 a.m. So we're utilizing that early period before that late start. Now we realize that there have been conflicts, whether it's the Stanley Cup or Club's Fair or a pancake breakfast or there's things that's going to happen. But if you can only come for half an hour, the students can only come for 15 minutes. Drop in, stay as long as you want. You don't have to show up at 8 o'clock. You can show up at 8:30, 8:45. It doesn't matter. Stay for as long as you want. Work on whatever you want. Have both of us take a look at what you're working on. It's a great time to be productive and to get additional eyes on your work without the necessity of a meeting. Because I know that for both of us, our calendars are pretty tight right now. So we just wanted to make sure that I think this is still something that our seniors are learning about or remembering, and not quite adjusting to yet, just based on the numbers. Like this morning, we had 3 students, right? We should be seeing 3 times that number, quite honestly. And we know that the closer it gets to the deadlines, the more students we'll see. But now is the time to get the work done, when we have the time to help, right? Please, the one thing that I would say is, encourage your students not to wait too long to ask for help, to come in and see us, because that adds to the additional stress, and we want to mitigate that stress as much as possible, and we want to give them time to really work on and hone their writing. So the importance of meeting colleges. We have colleges visiting every single day. Recently we had Rice, we had Fordham, we've had Columbia College in Chicago, which is a phenomenal art school. We had Emerson, no one showed up. I mean, it's appalling when no one shows up, and when students are applying to those schools, it will hurt them in the application process if you don't attend the high school visit. If a college takes the time to be here, right, and they're flying all the way from Boston, for example, or Chicago, or California, or whatever, and they're making the time to be here, we want our students to show up. They know how to do this. They know how to sign up. We've taught them how to do this ever since sophomore year. They sign up in Naviance. They are familiar with this. They know how to get their teacher's 24-hour permission in advance. It's half an hour. It's a half an hour visit, right? Unless they're taking a quiz, we want them and the teachers understand how important these visits are. Questions?
Yeah, is there a way you can let the parents know that these schools are coming?
You do know.
We do know?
You do know. So it's actually on our website. So all you have to do is go directly to the college counseling website, and it's right there on the front page. Yep, and we're going to show you the college counseling website as one of the resources. So on the website, you have scholarships and financial aid, summer programs and competitions, and research opportunities that are available. You have colleges that are visiting. You have links to standardized testing. I mean, a plethora of resources. So you can easily, and you also have access to Naviance. So all parents can log into their Naviance accounts and see which colleges are coming. And if you don't have access, you can email Ms. Linda Hines, who's our administrative assistant, and she can give you access. You can see your students' college list, you can see their deadlines, you can see if they've requested teacher recommendations, you can see what colleges they're coming to, you can check out their resume, you can see all the work that they've been doing in advisory for the past 4 years. Other questions? Yes.
So one of the things is the kids that are taking advanced classes, if they miss one class, it's like being 3 days behind. So a lot of them need to be taught to explain to them how important is what you just said, that if they come here and that's a college interest, and if you don't go, that's going to hurt you. But maybe it should be around lunchtime or a window where they don't miss their chemistry class or they miss their calculus class, because that's the difficult thing that they don't understand, because they feel like they're going to fall so far behind missing that one class.
Yeah.
So just something to think about.
Absolutely, we want to consider that. There are a variety of different ways that high schools approach college visits, and we're definitely open to suggestions. One thing to keep in mind is for upcoming events. In mid-August, or October, we're going to have the Southern Nevada College Week. And so during that particular week, which is during the case study program, which hopefully you had a chance to attend last year and the year before, we are going to have probably about 25 schools visiting that entire week. I think we have maybe 5 to 10 almost every single day. And they're coming during lunch. So what I will be interested to see is whether or not our students actually show up to talk to the reps at lunch. Because coming from the college side, I will tell you that lunch visits are notoriously ineffective, at least from the college side, because students, it's the only time they have to socialize with friends and to have lunch. And it's, colleges hate them. I'll just be honest, they hate them. And I know, at least working from Colorado College, if a high school said, we're giving you a high school or a lunch visit, I wouldn't visit. I really wanted to visit during an actual class period, but it's something we want to think about. There's got to be a better way to encourage our students. That being said, we did have students sign up for. Students have been increasingly signing up for the visits. We just want them aware that these are happening and to sign up in greater numbers.
So in the short term, something that we want to do is we want to partner with the teachers to make sure that they understand that these 30 minutes that they might miss in class are important. So that's really short term. What we can offer is talking to the teachers to make sure that the students get the support from the teachers, and it's not something that's going to hurt them in class, but something that is going to help them in the college side. So that we're doing now. This is something that we talked about in our previous meetings. So it's we know it's an issue, and we're brainstorming ways to fix it.
Yeah.
So we're working on that.
Yes, thank you. I mean, it's absolutely something we need to tackle. Yes.
Regarding that, I gotta say, everyone that college visits, my daughter visited so far this year, she did have a quiz or a test, but every teacher accommodated for that. They said you can come in at 7 a.m., take your quiz or test, or come in at lunchtime. So it's a kid's choice if they choose to do that or not, if they make it a priority to go to college.
Yeah.
They're not gonna let you take the quiz the next day, obviously after everybody's already done it, so they gotta think ahead.
Right. Yeah, our teachers really want to accommodate and work with our students. They realize that these are high pressure, high stakes situations. And I say, this last year I remember Ashley Hoflander, for example, Vanderbilt was coming, and they were taking a test during that class, and she didn't want to miss it, but she popped in for 5 minutes. Introduced herself to Lawson and said, I met you last year, I met you on campus, I'm applying early decision, I'm excited, and I can't wait for you to read my application, it's my #1 pick, etc. So just putting that face to a name, even if it's just 5 minutes, right, can make a world of difference, because some of these colleges are assessing contact history and demonstrated interest when they're evaluating applications, especially since the average number of applications students are applying to is between 13 and 15. So colleges now know that students are shopping around, and they want to assess and determine, if we admit the student, are they really going to come? If we came to Meadows and they didn't show up, what does that say about their interest? So it is. It's all things being equal. If I have a student that I've met and a student that I haven't met, that personalized connection can go a long way. All right. Speaking of personalized connections, if your seniors would like to volunteer at our upcoming case study, we have 23 colleges that are going to be here. This is our 3rd annual case study. It's on Wednesday, October 18th, and they will be ambassadors. They will be here to meet and greet the admissions representatives, help them get set up with their tables, show them to their classrooms, guide the admissions director in the case studies and, kind of help them situate and escort them around. So we have 23 colleges ranging from Boston College to University of Chicago, so NYU and USD. So if your student would like to volunteer, please send me an email, and they do get volunteer hours for that as well. And again, great way to put a face to a name. All right. Student inventories, parent response forms, teacher questionnaires. So all of these pieces, right? You guys know about the parent response form. Many of you have done such a wonderful job of sharing your reflections and your insights with us. I love just those personal details that demonstrate so much heart and conviction and all the little nuances that we learn about your students. It all allows us to get to know your students and create and craft the most thoughtful, comprehensive, compelling, exceptional letter of recommendation. The parent response is really your chance to say, don't forget to mention this about my child, right? Like, it's the one time when you have to say, this is what I want you to talk about, right? Or like, if I could speak to admissions director, this is what I would want them to know about my son or daughter. Or these are the moments that you don't see, right, in a 45-minute meeting, or that because we're not teachers, maybe we don't see that in the classroom, right? But we need to know about their character, about what they're like as a sibling, or what their role is in the household, or how their growth has manifested over time. So we really appreciate those. Student inventories, the students were working on those during junior year advisory. We would love for them to complete them. One of the things that we told our students is that all of those essays, all of the questions, right, are college essay questions. I'm sure you guys have seen those, the students that are here, right? The questions that we've asked: tell us about your most meaningful extracurricular activity. Tell us about a challenge that you've encountered and how you faced it, right? Tell us about a time when you encountered a difference of opinion or someone of a different background, right? And how you reacted, and how you handled that situation, that conflict or adversity. These are all college essay questions, so we hope that your students are continuing to fill them out because we're reading them. And then the teacher questionnaires, we ask our students, again, this was work that we did, or at least introduced in advisory, but we want to make sure that our students are working on them. Our teachers ask for questions, ask for information about what to write about, what to highlight, academically proud moments, and reflections on times of intellectual curiosity and tenaciousness and resiliency in the classroom, and curiosity and teamwork and creative problem solving, all of those attributes that your student wants the teacher to talk about and to highlight. Give them the resources, right? We want the students to articulate that, so that way the teacher knows exactly what to say, in addition to what they're already going to say, all right? Advisory work, we've been working on all of this during advisory, in addition to filling out the common application, working on college essays. It's the continuation of our curriculum, our college counseling curriculum, over 4 years. Every year we ramp up in terms of the work that we do, building upon the theory and the research, and basically putting it into practice eventually in senior year. Individual meetings, Mr. Villalpando mentioned about how you can schedule meetings. Personally, you can just email me if it's a crazy time of the year, as it is right now. I might respond and then just forward your email to Ms. Hines and ask Ms. Hines to schedule a meeting for me, since she knows my calendar better than I do, quite honestly, and she can study kind of the blocks and everything. So either way works for me, if you want to email Ms. Hines or if you want to just email me directly. So that's perfectly fine. Just let me know a couple of times that you're available, a couple of days you're available. Also upcoming, we have deadlines, right? October 15th. Who has an October 15th deadline? Yeah. yes. University of Florida, Georgia Tech, Texas A&M, a couple of others. Yeah, University of Georgia, exactly. And I believe all the Florida schools also require test scores. So make sure those are sent by October 1st, okay? It can take up to 2 weeks for scores to arrive. We do not send test scores, and we're going to be talking about that as well as part of the logistics. One thing to keep in mind, the profile, the CSS profile goes live October 1st. So the profile is the form that private institutions require to determine what's called institutional aid. So the vast majority of money comes from two sources: the feds, the federal government, right, which is the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, and the colleges and universities themselves, right? The private schools, because they have quite a bit of money, they require an additional form. And that form will determine how much of their money, how much of their endowment institutionally, they will distribute to students based on eligibility, okay? The colleges that we've spoken to at this point have told us that they will, because the FAFSA is going through what's called a Simplification Act and is not available until December, they will base their financial aid on the profile. Okay, and we're going to talk about that more coming up, all right? Usually for early action and early decision, those typical deadlines are November 1st, November 15th. If it's an early deadline for admission, it's typically an early deadline for the profile as well. Because those decisions, they want to release them before the new year, right? As early as mid-December, possibly in early January as well. And they'd like to be able to give many students an estimate of their financial aid at that time as well, right? Or merit scholarship. So that's really important. Any questions about upcoming events, activities? All right, fantastic.
All right, so a bit of a timeline of how we want to move. So very important, meet your college counselor. I think at this point, we've met all of our seniors at least once, but we encourage them to continue to meet with us just to keep checking deadlines, keep checking whether they need letters of recommendation, see what their progress is with the application. Just overall, it's important to continuously seek our support. Very important, follow up with teachers about your recommendations. At this point, it's a little bit late, so we want to make sure that students are asking teachers for their letters of rec, submitting the questionnaire that we talked about, and then also requesting them on Naviance so that they can formally be assigned to write letters of recommendation, and they know the deadlines as well. We don't want a student with a October 15 deadline not requesting a letter and then forgetting to do it in Naviance, and the teacher might have no idea that they have to submit a deadline, a letter of rec by time. So it's important to check in with us, but also for them to be proactive and continuously check what it is that they're missing. So that's really important. Update Naviance and our internal documents. So always updating Naviance is important. If there are schools that they're adding, we really, really want to see them on Naviance so that we get a sense. I mean, that's how we send our documents, right? If a school is not on Naviance, then we cannot send the transcripts to that school. We cannot send the letters of recommendation to that school. So it's very important that they're working with Naviance and engaging with the platform as much as they can.
Can I pause you real quick?
Sure.
So that's a really important point that we want to mention and we want to clarify with our students. Common App is the most frequently used application that students will use to apply to colleges, right? It's all of the students' accomplishments and their involvement, their activities, their resume, their essay, and essays. But Naviance is how the Meadows, how our office sends the transcript, the school profile, the teacher recommendations, our recommendation, mid-year reports, final transcripts. Unless the student indicates in Naviance where they're applying, what their proper deadline is, and request their transcripts and request their teacher recs, none of our school materials are sent, and their application is incomplete, and they will be denied. So this is why Naviance is crucial for students to make sure that their schools are listed, their application deadlines are correct, their teachers are invited, and that it is always accurate and updated.
And parents have access to Naviance as well, so you can go and check if, you know, the schools have been added, if they are requesting letters of rec, so you have access to be able to see everything. It's also an overall great, yes? No, go ahead.
I am able to get on my daughter's Naviance, but I didn't know that I could see all of this stuff. And she's pretty type-A, so she's on top of it. But I don't have no idea how to find that. Like, where do you find how much to get on the Naviance?
Okay, well, we can take a look. Yeah, if you want to stay after, we can.
Yeah, we can take a look. Yeah, and so we want to make sure that they're, you know, including all that. I would say, you know, Naviance, beyond the documents and all that, it's a great resource. It's a great tool to check, you know, selectivity of a school, and it also has statistics showing, you know, previous students from the Meadows, what their GPA was and SAT was compared to other students that got in. So it's overall a great tool to see more or less, you know, do I have a shot? Is this going to be a far reach or with the context of the Meadows? So it's not just going to be when you Google it, you get some numbers, right? But if you look at Naviance, you're going to get numbers compared to other Meadows students. So it's probably the most accurate place for you to look at getting an idea of like how much of a chance you have to go into a particular school. So Naviance, I recommend, you know, to be a platform where you spend and your student a lot of time on. It's a great tool to use for data, but also for, you know, important for our documents. Yeah, so as Melissa said, October 1st, the CSS profile goes live. There's a link to it right here. It's really important to set it up. Most of our students are applying to private schools. We want to make sure that they set up a profile. It's going to be the main way that schools are going to determine financial aid for students, at least institutional part, right? Which is, like as Melissa said, one of the two main ways that students get scholarships, grants, and money in general. So very, very important to do. I think everybody should do it. Everybody should set up a CSS profile. This is also in many ways, if you don't do it, you're not considered for merit-based scholarships. So I definitely recommend doing it for everyone, no matter the tax bracket. Just do it. You know, it's always important to do it. So October 7, SAT testing, last date for test scores to arrive for November 1st deadline. So October 7 would be the last EDEA test for most students with, so if they wanted to see their scores by the time that they were applying early, this is the last one. And then the last one for regular decision is the December one. So October 18, we have the college application case study program, which again is going to be a great opportunity for some students to volunteer. You know, if maybe they didn't go to visit a school, but they're going to be their ambassador, it will probably be a great opportunity to meet with the representatives of the school and build some relationship there. And finally, we have December 15. All January 1st applications must be submitted, and we're closed over winter break. So we want to make sure that students are not, you know, Christmas or you know, New Year's typing their applications. We want to make sure that they're all done by December 15. Everything is completed, all of the essays, all of our letters sent, so that we don't have to worry about it over the break. So that's our deadline to make sure that we can support them as much as possible. And we don't have, most of the deadlines are going to be in the first week of January, so we definitely don't want to go through all of that during the break. Yes.
So as Mr. Villalpando mentioned, there are some resources you have available in Naviance Naviance that we've introduced to your students as they've conducted their research, but we wanted to also mention to you, if you log in and you go directly to the colleges tab, what you can do is, first of all, you can search for individual schools. And when you search for an individual school, each of the schools has admission data available. And the admission data that is presented to you are all of the records from students, like the statistical information, or GPA, quantitative data from our students going back to 2013, from students who have applied from Meadows to those colleges, to every single college in our system back since 2013. We were looking up UCLA earlier today. We have 216 applications and data from 216 applications. And that data will show up in a number of ways. So first of all, it can show a student in context. And context is really important just in terms of a barometer, right? We know that college admissions is highly nuanced, that there are so many factors that are considered, right? Beyond grades, beyond test scores, in a holistic admissions review where colleges are looking at, what are the students' talents, where are they from, what have they accomplished, what have they overcome, right? What's their story, what's their background, what are their passions, what do they want to pursue for their majors, all of these different factors. But if you just want the data, right, to determine realistically, right, the mid 50% in terms of, like, for example, USC, the mid 50% of the students who in our high school who have applied to USC, right, the average is about, for students who have been admitted to USC, the average is about a 4.59 weighted GPA. Right? In terms of SAT, you can see for our students, the average mid 50% for USC is between a 1400 and a 1520. So that gives you a sense as to, if your GPA is below that barometer, below that mid 50%, and your SAT is below that, right, then it makes it more of a reach institution. I'm not saying that it's not possible, right? Because we want our students to aspire. We want our students to have a balanced list of colleges, because you never know. You never know what is going to happen and what a college is looking at or how they make their decisions, right? But we want to make sure that the student has a well-rounded list and that we're also being well-informed as we go through this application process. The other thing that you have available to you are what's called, so you can click on admissions, scroll down to see applications, the scattergrams, right? The scattergrams are basically, I think this is probably for a school like UCLA or USC or something like that, right? A whole bunch of red. The red is the deny. The green is the acceptance. And so again, you can hover over those little icons and it will show you the statistics of those particular students. The GPA that's indicated here is at the end of senior year, so when the seniors graduate, right? So if you see a 5.16, which was our valedictorian last year, don't be dismayed by that. That's at the end of senior year. And then you can also see, yeah, this is definitely USC. 31 applied, this was 2001, right? How many were accepted, and how many enrolled, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see the different information, acceptance rates, et cetera. So we definitely recommend using Naviance, and also just keeping, like I said, keeping everything in perspective. yes, the application, college, where a student goes to college is a big decision, but it's not the only decision that they're going to make. It doesn't determine their happiness, their future success, the opportunities that they're able to take advantage of, right? And the life that they make for themselves. We need to keep a level head about this, right? And know that there's no one perfect college, and there are many, many pathways out there. And together we can help a student discover and be excited about all of the options, okay? Things work out the way they're supposed to. You have to trust us in this journey. I've seen it over and over and over again in my 20 years, as has Mr. Villalpando. It's a journey of highs and some disappointments, but it's life lessons also. And now I need an application.
Just to mention one last thing about Naviance, it's a great tool, but it's also important to keep in mind that it doesn't distinguish majors, and that's something that's very important to note. So if you have someone who's interested in computer science and you look at the data for UIUC, you're going to see an acceptance rate of about 60%. Computer science is probably under 6%. So you got to think about the major as well in the different schools within the university. So it's important to know that even though the data might say something, we also want to do a little deeper depending on the majors. And we have a lot of students interested in business school. We have a lot of students interested in pre-med bio, and many pre-professional schools know that sometimes the data is going to be overall or about the College of Arts and Science. So it's important and it's a great tool, but it can be more complicated than just what is presented on the data. So.
Such a good point. Same thing with the Fine Arts School of Cinematic Studies at USC, 3%.
Film even lower than that. So yes.
Yeah. School of Cinematic Studies, at USC is about 3 to 5%. Yeah.
Great. So we want to go over a little bit of the anatomy of an application. What are the components to make an application? So something that's really, really important is we recommend everyone to have a resume. Not every school accepts a resume, but you can always use a resume to create the activities list, the word section, and even the additional information section. So it's an important part that can contribute to an application. So many schools do accept the resume, so it's always advisable to actually have a resume for a student to be able to use it in an application, whether it's the Common App or the UC system or Georgetown or MIT or any of the other platforms that they're using, Applied Texas or all of them. Generally having a resume will be like a centralized place where they have all of their information and they're able to use it to different platforms that are available out there. So really important to have that. The activities, it's the activity list. Generally when we say that, we are talking about the Common App activity list, which gives the students the opportunity to write about 10 activities that they've engaged with throughout high school and sort of like rank them and talk about them and how they've used them and grown from them. So that's an important part of the application. The personal statement, which is in many ways one of the most important and the most difficult parts of an application, is drafting and crafting this personal statement. Very, very important to have. I think it's really the foundation of most of the application. So spending a lot of time and energy on this is important. It's a difficult piece of writing. It's unlike most of the writing that students have done. It's not quite like a English paper. It's not quite like a history paper. It's really almost like nothing they've ever written before. Parts of it is like a autobiography, sales pitch, creative writing type of combination of assignments. So it's really a very different beast, and we want to be there to support them with that. This is really, really important to have. I would, the first thing that I would do is I would check with their student, how's the person's statement going? And if the answer is, I don't know, it's not early. It's not early. We should definitely have the foundation of a personal statement right about now. And I think we have students in all parts of the spectrum here right now, some that are getting started, some that are almost done, but we really encourage you to push students a little bit, particularly with the personal statement, because it's not easy, and it's very important. Perhaps the most important part of an application beyond numbers. So supplemental essays, these are the essays that are, or the short answers, the short questions that are given by universities themselves. So the personal statement is normally used by all of the Common App universities. Supplemental essays are the questions that they ask, like why do you want to study at this school, or tell us about a time that you disagreed with someone, or all of these different questions that might be institution specific. Some schools have one question, some schools have 3. MIT, if you do all of the optionals, is up to 13. So it really varies a lot depending on the school that you're targeting. Supplemental essays, very, very important as well. That's the way that you show. So the personal statement is showing who are you as a person. The supplemental essays are how are you a good match to this university. And so that's something that we really want to make sure that the students are working on as well. After you ask about the personal statement, and ask about the supplemental essays, because they're also time consuming and very important as well. So another part that we have is the transcript. Very important. The transcripts are something that we do. So if the students request the transcripts via Naviance, then those are sent by we don't send them. It's Ms. Linda Hines who sends the transcripts, but our department sends those to the institutions.
Can I also mention, many highly selective colleges will request quarter 1.
Right.
Whether your student wants them sent or not, they will reach out to us, as has been done in the past. And that means that they're making that decision right then and there as to whether to admit the student or not. And it's going to hinge on those quarter 1 grades, quite honestly. So now senior year is not the time to slack off at all. We also send final grades. We send mid-year grades, we send final grades. Students are required to be in the same, if not better, academic standing at the end of senior year as they are when they're admitted in November, right? So, and colleges have the right to rescind or change admission decisions if the student's grades dip. And I'm not talking about A's to C's, I'm talking A's to B's. Multiple A's to B's. I'm not, one, okay, right? But if it's happening on multiple occasions, that's a red flag. And we want to be, very vigilant about that. Celebrate senior year, but at the same time, it's not a time to give up, right? We've worked so hard to get to this point. If your student wants us to send quarter 1 grades, we don't automatically send them, right? But if they want them sent and they're a positive reflection of their ability, they're doing the best work yet, they're taking a highly rigorous curriculum, they want colleges to see that, let us know and we can send their first quarter grades. We're approaching the end of quarter 1 now. So it's coming up, so just let us know, okay?
And some schools will require it. So some schools will ask for quarter 1 grades. So yes, thank you.
School profile?
Yes, school profile, that's also on us. So we create a school profile where we, tell universities about our background, the classes that we teach, the number of students that we have, diversity data, which ones are difficult courses. So we say our class rigor is AP classes and the AT courses as well. So we talk about those are being college level courses so that the universities know what we're talking about when they read AT Myth and Magic in a transcript. They know what that means after they read our profile.
We also indicate in the profile that we limit the number of AP classes to 4. So all of our students, they can't take more than 4 APs in any, junior year, senior year. And that's really important for colleges to know that we value the students and want to honor the balance, right? The promotion of balance between academics and extracurriculars. Our students are extremely busy, and those are college level classes. And so really, it's to the benefit of the students, actually, for us to limit them and to articulate to to the colleges so they don't penalize our students and try to compare them. They can't compare them to, students at Clark or students at ATAC or students, at any other school, right? They look within the context of the Meadows. How is the student at the Meadows taking advantage of the curriculum and the opportunities available here, nowhere else, okay?
That's exactly right. So the schools will only look at the context of the Meadows. So if somebody else in another school has 17 APs, your student has 8.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. They're not competing with each other. It's in the context of your school. Yeah.
Are you able to send us the school profile that you'll be sending out?
It's on our website.
It's on our website, so it's available to see. The school profile,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, it's for everyone to see as well.
Yeah. We'll show you the website at the very end there. Recommendations.
So recommendations, our students, of course, request teacher letters of recommendation. Typically, they ask for 2 letters of recommendation. Most schools allow for 2 letters of recommendation, require 2 letters of recommendation from teachers, 1 from the counselor. So every single student here is going to get a letter of recommendation written by one of us. So everyone's getting one. So know that's an important part of the application, a very important part of the application. In fact, the combination of the letters of recommendation are basically the only opportunity that admissions officers have to know about the student from a voice of not the student, but also an adult who has seen the student, right? So these letters of recommendation are really, really important. This is why we really want the students to make an effort with the questionnaire for the teachers, making sure that they're writing a lot so that, that's really giving information to the teacher of what to write. And, the more detailed they are, the more compelling their answers are, the better letter of rec they're going to get. The same is true for the parent response form, right? So the more details you're providing in the parent response form, it is more likely that we're going to write a better letter of rec because we're going to have more material to work with. So we recommend using those because we're going to be building the letters of recommendation based on that. There's also the outside recommenders, and those 2 counselor and teacher recommenders are sent via Naviance. So we use Naviance to send those letters of rec. The only letters of rec that we don't send directly is the other recommenders. That's done through the Common App. In the Common App, the students have the opportunity to add a recommender, and it's called Other Recommender. And you want to, if they have a recommender, say, they work with, they shadowed a physician and they want a letter from that person, great, they can, request it. It can be anyone, really. And, I mentioned this at some point, it doesn't have to be a professor or somebody that they guided. Some of the most powerful, compelling letters of rec that I've seen have been written from people like a security guard or somebody else. Really what they want to get from this is a different angle of who the student is, a different perspective, right? If the third letter of rec is another teacher, and they're also talking about the student within the context of the classroom, it's redundant. What they want is a different angle. It's a different point of view of who the student is. So additional letters of rec, not all of the colleges accept them, but when they do, they're a great way if they're providing something new in terms of content for the student. So that's part of it. The last one, test scores. Test scores are really, really important for some schools, not so important for others, not important at all for some. So it's important to know that the test part of things has changed. It really depends. The University of California is test blind. You have a 1600 or 900, couldn't care less, right? So that's a test blind institutions. There are some that are test optional. That's also sometimes a bit of a spectrum in terms of how optional is. If you look at the data, some schools really are optional and they don't consider it at all. Some others data shows that perhaps if you send it and you have a good score, you do get a bit of a boost. So we don't send test scores. Test scores are always sent via College Board if it's an SAT. So students have to go to the College Board and send them directly to the schools. Generally, it takes about up to 2 weeks for the test scores to arrive. A lot of schools self-report, so you can self-report it and you can eventually send them. But if they don't, it's important to send them.
Maybe instead of going through this slide, do we have any questions about standardized testing? Yes, question.
Can you send, like, if you know the ones your kids applying to, can you send them all out before they actually get their application submitted there?
Yeah, I mean, the only caveat to that is that it costs money every time for each school that you're sending those test scores to. And if you're super scoring, it's, you multiply by 2 or 3, for example, to those institutions. So you can absolutely send them at any point. And I would encourage you, if your student is done testing and they know where they're applying, right? Send them. Absolutely. There's no harm in that. And what happens is on the college side, when a school receives any component of the application, they'll start to generate a file for that student. And the student will may start receiving like some information about the school, about the application process, or it might trigger some follow-up from the college. But at least it's one box that's been checked, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. And I'm a big fan of taking items off the table as soon as possible, right? To not have to worry about it.
Do we send the AP scores?
So AP scores, no. So you don't send them right now. We encourage students to report on the Common Application any 4s and 5s. Those are scores with which colleges generally award college credit, are typically the 4s and 5s. So we encourage students to self-report those. Once the student decides where they want to matriculate, that is when the student will request those scores be sent to the college, so that the college can then review and award whatever credit they're going to allocate.
And that's also us then
Through College
Through
Board.
College Board.
Yeah.
I would also recommend to have a meeting with us about which ones to send, which ones to don't in terms of APs. If there's a 3, I guess it would be a nice conversation to have.
Yeah, BC, calculus maybe.
Right. It depends a lot on the AP test, so I think it would be something that it merits a meeting to talk about. Where some of the AP scores should be sent.
We also have access to AP data, so we can actually look to see how many students, like for AP Spanish language, which a lot of students take sophomore year, we can look to see, all right, you scored a 3. How many other students scored 3s, right? How many students scored 4s and 5s? So, if you're in that bulk where most of the students scored 3s, then it wouldn't necessarily hurt you to send it, right? So we can give you context in that regard too. Any other questions with regard to testing? Fantastic. Let's move on. All right, so first thing I would recommend is scanning that QR code and watching the video from College Aid Pro. They are experts in the changes that are upcoming, the changes that are happening with the FAFSA, the Federal Aid, and the Simplification Act, and how it is going to impact families in their eligibility for financial aid. So not available till December. We still don't know exactly what the date is. The Simplification Act is intended to make it easier for families to apply for aid, so there's vast reduction in the number of questions that are asked. Student aid can now be a negative as well, so that really benefits students from low-income families to be able to, really realistically reflect assets and income and what they could possibly afford. Child support, this is a big one, now considered an asset of the recipient and only assessed up to 5.64%. Previously, it was considered income and assessed up to 47%. So that's huge if you're receiving child support. No more, the bad part is that if you have 2 kids in college at the same time, there's no discount anymore. So basically, your cost for college tuition will double.
You're gonna have a freshman, junior, senior at the same time.
Yeah, no discount. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know. But we can find scholarships. And then net price calculator resource at npc.collegeboard.org. This is great. If you call up a financial aid office at a college, you ask for what do you think an estimate of by financial aid would be, they will directly to their net price calculator. This is great because it has actually the link to the net price calculator of maybe 50 to 100 colleges. It's a whole slew of schools, and they'll walk you through in 20 minutes what it takes to produce an estimate of what your financial aid could possibly be, all right, based on the forms that they require. So, and we'll also send out a link to this, the handouts or the slideshow. So if you didn't get a chance to scan that, you will. Okay, so website. I think what I'd like to do is just go directly to the website. So I'm going to hand that off to you real quick. And let's do this.
So basically all of the resources that we've talked about are really housed there. So if you go to the college counseling website, you're going to be able to look at the school profile, see scholarships, internships, research opportunities, and all of those things live there.
Okay.
Campus
So
visits as well.
when you're on the website, right, if you go just directly to academics and then scroll down to college counseling, we've really tried to create a robust resource and enhanced all of the links and the educational tools that you have available to you. So there's our first introduction to College on Demand. You as parents have access to 14 college counseling on demand videos, including financial aid, including the admissions process, including the timeline for senior year. We've only gone through the fall. If you want to see the entire senior year, including the spring, it is on there. It's on your Meadows portal, okay? Standardized testing, the school profile, right here. Okay, so you can literally download it. And you can see this is the profile. And you can also see the classes that we offer. You can see our testing breakdown, national merit breakdown, program highlights, and all the schools that our students have been admitted to and accepted at. So that is what we give to the colleges. Admission officer visits. This is where we indicate, who is visited. So Emory came the first week of school, right? Northeastern, I think we had maybe 4 students.
4 students.
Thank you. Boston University, University of Arizona, Vanderbilt came. So all the students have this, and you have this as well. So you can check this on a daily basis, and you can see what time they're coming, and you can foreshadow and look ahead, so you can see October is a pretty big month for us.
So encourage your students to sign up for these.
Sign up. Let's see, we also have financial aid right here. So if the student wants to see financial aid and scholarships, this very first listing right here in Nevada and National Scholarship Listings, we updated, Ms. Hines spent an enormous amount of time updating all the deadlines for this, but they are updated, and we will continue to update the scholarships that we learn about and the deadlines as we hear about them. One big one that's coming up is the Coca-Cola, of course, that's due October 2nd. But there are so many scholarships available, and this is a fantastic resource for our families. These are verified scholarships. They're authentic. They don't require any money to apply, and we encourage you. Students and parents often ask us, where can I find money, right? Where can I find scholarships? Well, if you use Google and you search for scholarships, you'll come up with probably 5 million hits, right? This is a great place to start, and literally what you have to do, as tedious as it sounds, is If it sounds like a scholarship you might be interested in, like Mu Alpha Theta, all right, I'm part of the Math Honor Society. What is this scholarship, okay? Click on the link, read the description, read the qualifications, see what's required for the application, and are you eligible for it? Okay, yes, no, no, okay, let's move on to the next one. Click on the link, review the application, review the scholarship criteria. Qualified, not qualified, yes, no, move on to the next one, right? Parents, this is a great way to help your student. They're working on their college essays right now, they're working on their teacher questionnaires and recommendations, they're working on their application. You want to help them find money? Help them by looking through these, right? Question.
$200,000, that's pretty good.
Yeah, because that is a full ride for all 4 years of college. Yeah, but there's so many scholarships that go unclaimed because guess what happens is the deadline passes and the student says, oh, if I had known about it, I could have applied for it, right? But some of them are in October. Right?
They're stackable too. I think in
Yep.
most cases, you can stack a lot of these scholarships. If you get 20 of them that are $1,000, well, you have $20,000 there.
Right.
I think it's important to also keep in mind that they're generally very specific, so they can be incredibly specific. Like, are you a lefty? Well, there's a scholarship for you. So, you can look for all kinds of scholarships. That's why we don't have like, okay, well, these are the scholarships that you should apply to. There are just so many of them, and there's so many of them that are gonna, be a good fit for your student.
Yeah. So just additional resources that you have available to you. We do have our own college counseling YouTube channel. There are 13 videos on there as well from previous presentations. That is where we anticipate this video will be also, and we'll send out an email regarding that. And then this is our QR code to our college counseling on demand videos as well. You can find information about the senior timeline. We also have a financial aid session, a financial aid on-demand tutorial that goes through the profile and what forms are specifically required for the profile. We will have a financial aid night in November, but for the profile, it would behoove our students and families to check out that specific video. We also have a tutorial on Naviance and all the features of Naviance, so if we went through this too quickly and you want kind of a step-by-step guide, that's what that video allows for. So we wanted to give time. I know that we're over right now, but we do value your thoughts and comments. Any questions at all that you have, we welcome them. Yes.
Just a quick one. Is it possible for the schools you're applying to see which other schools have been applied to or how many?
No. I would say yes and no. No. There have been rumors in the past that when you submit your FAFSA to the schools, that they can see, the financial aid offices can see where else you've applied. But I can tell you that from the admissions perspective, it has never mattered. That information is not available to us in admissions.
The moment you send an application, they're assuming that you're interested. And, that's if you took the time to apply, they have to assume this person is very interested in our university, even if they can see that you applied to another 17 schools.
Yeah.
Is there, someone had mentioned that there's only maybe a certain number of financial aid money that you can get, and if you're looking at a school that's, $80,000 a year, if you can afford it, you might have a better chance of getting in, not applying for financial aid. Is that true?
Need aware versus need blind.
Need aware.
So there are some schools that are need aware. It means that they pay attention to the income of the student and how much money they're going to need. There are some schools that are need blind, meaning that they wouldn't care if a student could pay the entire tuition or if the student would need to get significant aid. Yes.
So you want a school that's need blind?
So what I will tell you, just having worked at a need-aware institution when I worked at Colorado College, our acceptance rate at Colorado College the last year that I was there was 15% for regular action. It was very different for early. It was about 45% for early, and early action about 35%. But as a need-aware institution, it wasn't the fact that students applied for aid. It was how much. So we have to be in admissions fiscally responsible, right? We have a budget at that institution, and unfortunately, we're not. Many schools don't have the endowment that Harvard has, or Grinnell in Iowa, for example, in the billions, right? And there's a pool of money. There's a pot of money, and it can come down to in committee work, for example, a student who there's a very big difference between a family that needs an extra $10,000 and a family that needs $50,000, right? And I've literally been in those conversations before where our VP will say to us, okay, we have, and I was saying this morning, right? We have 5 spots and we have X much money, right? Student 1 needs all of it. And we can admit them, that one student, or we can admit these 3 students and divide the money among them. What do you want to do? Right? And those are real conversations that we have to grapple with. Unfortunately, it's part of just the business of, and that they are businesses, right? That's why I often say to students and parents, you can't take this personally. Whatever happens, right? There are institutional priorities beyond your control. What I'll also tell you is that in admissions, we work closely with the financial aid office to the extent that if a student applies for financial aid and they don't qualify, like even if you apply, if you don't qualify, right, they will tell us, the financial aid office would tell us, and we would view them with that information in mind. So we would consider them, with that new information. So whether a student applies for financial aid or not doesn't penalize them, it doesn't impact them. It's for need-aware institutions, it's how much.
I would say that doesn't mean don't apply. It just means that they take it into consideration when they're, it doesn't mean you're not going to get in. It means that, they take it into consideration.
But if you don't qualify, then it means you make so much money. So that should be there.
They take it into consideration as well.
Yes. Yeah, one thing I thought you were going to say is also the Common App also limits the number of applications to 20. So, we've had students in the past, sometimes, the occasional student that will ask us about the coalition application or the institutional applications, and those are additional resources for students. But, we really encourage students to manage their applications and the number of colleges that they're applying to. We really strongly encourage students to apply to 8 to 12 schools. And we think it's kind of exorbitant and unnecessary stress on our students. What they do to themselves is really quite criminal. And in terms of applying to so many institutions, it's unnecessary, and we can help them really narrow that list to help them manage that process. So.
Does it matter if the parents were alumni of that college or not?
It's part of what we call the institutional priorities. Some colleges, it matters more than others. And just as there are many different kinds of criteria that colleges will consider. That being a legacy is a factor that is noted among some colleges, but the weight that it carries varies. I would also say that because colleges have come under increasing scrutiny for certainly since the Supreme Court's decision to eliminate affirmative action, there is now a backlash building against legacies as well. There's, I believe there's some at least a lawsuit in the works that colleges should not be considering the extenuating factors like legacy and alumni connections either. So yeah, it's a factor, but I think colleges colleges are, they're being very, very hesitant, or just very careful about their admissions moving forward and trying to give a fair and equal, a fair shake to every student, right?
I would
Same
say-
thing with athletics.
I would say if the application, if it doesn't affect the application directly too much, it can help a student have a better sense of the school, and it can help in indirect ways,
Yeah.
writing a more personalized and compelling story about their relationship with the university.
I think that's really important, and that's where, again, the Supreme Court decision has really influenced kind of how we advise our students and how admissions officers are now reading applications as well, which is we want our students, it's so much more important for students now, instead of just checking a box, right? Yes, my dad went to USC, or yes, like I'm this demographic, right? Or identify this, to articulate in your essays, in your supplements, in your application, right? Why that is meaningful to you, right? How your family's legacy at USC or University of Michigan has played a role in influencing your aspirations and your goals, and and those pivotal moments or those singular moments that stand out in your mind, related to that institution, related to the legacy and the traditions, for example. Allow it to, really infuse and provide evidence to augment your story, right? Same thing when it comes to demographics, when it comes to ethnicity, for example, right? So to talk about how your identity and your heritage and your culture in a way that is symbolic to you and meaningful to you, and include that as part of your story. That's what's most important.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is there a different way to do it for sports? Is there a different, I don't know what we're supposed to do next. Is there a different counseling session?
We're happy to meet individually to talk about the athletic recruitment timeline, to talk about all of the process, the athletic kind of the pre-reads that our students might be going through, the pressure to go early decision, the application process with regard to that, the fly-ins, the official visits. Yeah, we're happy to schedule a meeting to talk
I would
about.
say, please schedule that one.
Yes, please schedule it.
Like now. Because, the timeline is very tight for
Yes.
athletics. So
Yes.
So yes.
And any particular individual conversations that you want to have with us, we're more than happy to meet. And on that note, I know we've taken too much of your time, but we thank you again for being with us tonight, and we hope this has been informative.